Joe.
Are you there?
Yep.
Okay, hold on just a second. Paul, are you there?
I am.
And Scott, you're there.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Should be good.
I need bigger ears or something.
I spread 1.5 tons of gravel today.
Did you?
Did a little floor patching repair so I can get ready for new flooring. Quite a workout.
Would you get a dump load?
Huh?
You get a dump load?
Yeah, 1.5 tons. No, I went and got it in a
Or did
trailer.
you go- Okay.
My grandson and I spread it with shovels. Finished up around the barn where we started a couple of weeks ago, and it's been so wet. And even today, I got tracks all through my yard where
Really?
it's terrible.
I don't see anybody.
Should never went in there today. I should have waited another week or
Yeah,
two.
Joe's the lucky one, he don't have to mow. Yeah, we don't need
Yeah,
that many
yeah.
anyway.
I think it'll
Me?
be all right.
Is yours growing?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he's got it growing. I went
Oh
by
my
there.
goodness.
Seen it not too long ago.
Is there, Carrie, is there an agenda for me?
Same one we've been using.
Just gonna use the same one? Okay.
Do you still have that?
Yep, I got it right here.
It's all the same.
I got it right here. I did bring it.
This one's so fat for. Oh, because this is my cheat sheet.
Did we have any concerned citizens?
Did we have any emails?
No, no
Okay.
emails, no, regular mail.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I know that the mayor won't be here tonight, and neither will Pam.
I thought she said Mrs. Johnson would be here.
Mrs. Johnson.
Yeah, that's the same as Amber,
Oh, I don't know.
in case we had any questions.
In case we had questions.
Maybe she's in the office.
Be.
I can check if you want, but I don't think so.
We don't have any questions.
I don't think we'll need her.
I mean, I don't think there's. it
I
seems
asked all
pretty
the questions I
straightforward.
had.
I already talked to her about it, so.
It's 7 PM, so are we ready? Or?
Yeah, we're running.
Okay.
We ready to go?
Let's do it.
All right. I call this regular council meeting to order for the Norton City Council for Monday, June 1st. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silent reflection. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. Be seated, please. Will the clerk call the roll, please?
Mr. Gaynor?
Present.
Mr. McClone?
Here.
Mr. Carrot?
Here.
Mr. Towesley?
Here.
Ms. Whipke?
Here.
Mr. Pelot?
Here.
Mr. Kernan?
Here. Communications from the public. I understand we did not get any emails in.
There were none received.
All right. Moving on to Committee of the Whole. Letter A, Appropriations and Estimated Resources Amendment. Ms. Whipke.
Thank you, Mr. President. This ordinance we're looking at to put on the agenda tonight is so that, as I understand it, there's a payment that's due probably today. And it's to get the vision payments of insurance out of the general fund and appointed to the individual departments that are affected. And the TIF is the monies where we get the monies from the county, and we have to give the school district their share of it, as that was the agreement. They didn't lose anything. We had to make them whole. And it's around 2/3 of the amount collected that they'll get, and the rest of us will come back to the city itself. Contains emergency language, and we're going to be looking to waive the second and third readings.
Any further discussion or questions?
If not, then I motion to add ordinance 53, 2020 to tonight's agenda for first reading.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to add ordinance number 53, 2020 to tonight's agenda for first reading. Paul, did I hear you need to say something?
No, I would. No, second.
Okay, all right. Would the clerk call the roll, please?
I heard Mr. Gaynor.
Yes,
first.
that's fine.
Ms. Whipke?
Yes.
Mr. Gaynor?
Yes.
Mr. McClone?
Yes.
Mr. Carratt?
Yes.
Mr. Towesley?
Yes.
Mr. Pelot?
Yes.
Mr. Kernan?
Yes. Letter B, fund authorization. Ms. Whipke?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is actually for the Medina Line Road project, and it's, we're adding a line so that we can track the monies and that we spend on the project itself. Any questions? If not, I motion to add ordinance 58, 2020 to tonight's agenda for its first reading.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to add ordinance number 58, 2020 to tonight's agenda. Is there any further discussion?
Just got a quick question on that.
Mr. Karen?
As we're singling this out, it's a big project, and there's other big projects like Worcester Road and some other things around. Do we anticipate that we'll do our funding for projects like this and separate them out more in the future? Because I don't remember seeing that so much in the past.
I think that is the intention for some of the larger projects.
I don't think it's a bad idea. I
yeah.
just want to kind of clarify that. It makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, I believe that is the intention.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Anything further? Would the clerk call the roll, please?
Ms. Whipke?
Yes.
Mr. Gaynor?
Yes.
Mr. McClone?
Yes.
Mr. Carratt?
Yes.
Mr. Towesley?
Yes.
Mr. Pelot?
Yes.
Mr. Kernan?
Yes. Consideration of minutes, the minutes of the regular council meeting of May 11th, 2020. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections to those? Those will be accepted as submitted. We have no officers, boards, or commissions here, no public hearings, so we'll move on to introduction of new legislation. Ordinance number 53, 2020, Ms. Whipke.
Thank you, Mr. President. I introduce ordinance 53, 2020 for its first reading. Ask clerk to read it, please.
An ordinance to amend the appropriations for the current expenses of the City of Norton for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2020, authorizing amendments to the Certificate of Estimated Resources of the city for calendar year 2020 and declaring an emergency.
Okay, at this time, I motion to waive the second and third readings.
Second that.
There's a motion and a second to waive the second and third readings of ordinance number 53, 2020. Any discussion regarding waiver? Would the clerk call the roll, please?
Ms. Whipke?
Yes.
Mr. Carratt?
Yes.
Mr. Gaynor?
Yes.
Mr. McClone?
Yes.
Mr. Towesley?
Yes.
Mr. Pelot?
Yes.
Mr. Kernan?
Yes.
At this time, I motion to adopt ordinance 53, 2020.
Second that.
There's a motion and a second to adopt ordinance number 53, 2020. Any further discussion? Would the clerk call the roll, please?
Ms. Whipke?
Yes.
Mr. Carratt?
Yes.
Mr. Gaynor?
Yes.
Mr. McClone?
Yes.
Mr. Towesley?
Yes.
Mr. Pelot?
Yes.
Mr. Kernan?
Yes. Ordinance number 58, 2020, Ms. Whipke.
Thank you, Mr. President. I introduce ordinance 58, 2020 for its first reading. Ask clerk to read it, please.
An ordinance establishing Fund 512, Medina Line Fund, and declaring an emergency.
This time, I motion to waive the second and third readings.
Second that.
There's a motion and a second to waive the second and third readings of ordinance number 58, 2020. Is there any discussion regarding waiver? Would the clerk call the roll, please?
Ms. Whipke?
Yes.
Mr. Carratt?
Yes.
Mr. Gaynor?
Yes.
Mr. McClone?
Yes.
Mr. Towesley?
Yes.
Mr. Pelot?
Yes.
Mr. Kernan?
Yes.
This time, I motion to adopt ordinance 58, 2020.
Second that.
There's a motion and a second to adopt ordinance number 58, 2020. Any further discussion? Would the clerk call the roll, please?
Ms. Whipke?
Yes.
Mr. Carratt?
Yes.
Mr. Gaynor?
Yes.
Mr. McClone?
Yes.
Mr. Towesley?
Yes.
Mr. Pelot?
Yes.
Mr. Kernan?
Yes.
Thank you.
Introduction of prior legislation, there is none. Are there any public service announcements? Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So motion.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. We're adjourned.
Okay. What do you anticipate for next week?
I don't know that, the last time I talked with administrator, didn't anticipate anything until at least mid-June.
But I'm assuming that we're going to still try to do this Zoom.
We are going to do Zoom. Yep.
Good, that's fine.